Hey everyone, my name is Matt Kushner. I graduated from Elon University in 2018 with degrees in finance and accounting. I started my career with Goldman Sachs in the relationship lending group and later lateraled over into the healthcare investment banking group. Currently, I'm an associate on the investment team at Brynwood Partners, which is a middle market private equity firm based in Greenwich, Connecticut, where we focus on food and beverage investing. Not in my day job, I'm Chief Operating Officer of Forma Futures, where I've been in the role for about a year or so. And before that, I was Chief Marketing Officer of the organization. I'll kick it over to Connor for a brief intro, and then we'll get started.
Hello, everyone. My name is Connor Calloway. I am currently a Vice President in the LBO group at HIG in San Francisco. I was also an associate there for 3 years prior to attending business school at Stanford. I did undergrad at the University of Richmond in Virginia, started off in investment banking at Jefferies, and then hopped over to HIG. I am the founder and president of Forma Futures. Let's kick it off back to Matt.
All right. So Forma Futures, we are a nonprofit with the goal of helping students with diverse backgrounds break into the industry, whether it's investment banking, consulting, private equity. We have very broad representation across all of these fields. We have over 150 mentors. And as you can see from this page, we have very broad firm representation across all of the industries I just mentioned, ranging from bulge bracket to middle market to boutique. And what we're really striving to do is provide the opportunity for educating students who don't really have the quote unquote target background and don't really have the same opportunity to have meaningful conversations with industry professionals and really learn what the day-to-day is like versus someone who has a target background and has more of a means to an end, so to speak. So what we're really striving to do is provide mentorship opportunities to students with diverse backgrounds. And the way we do that, to think of us in the most simplest way, is a mentorship directory. We've all been there. We all know how difficult it is to get in touch with industry professionals, whether you are going to LinkedIn and sending direct messages, or if you are doing the cold email approach, doing first name dot last name at firm.com, you're crossing your fingers, hoping for a response, and it doesn't always work out. At PFF, we're really eliminating the risk. We all have our personal email addresses listed on our profile. So we encourage you to go to our website, go to the team page, filter by industry, by firm, and really read the bios and backgrounds of the folks on our website and see whose profiles you resonate with and see if you'd have a meaningful conversation, and we know you will. So what we're really trying to do is bridge the gap for students who don't really have the same opportunity to connect with industry professionals and receive that career guidance and insight into the industry. And really how we help, I touched upon this already, but we really have conversations across the whole spectrum of recruiting, whether you're someone who is a freshman in school and is, studying finance and really just looking to understand what paths are available to you, whether you've never heard of what investment banking is before, or consulting, or sales and trading. We're happy to have those exploratory level conversations with you to really tell you what the life is like for folks who work in those fields. Additionally, we provide career guidance. We can be with you every step of the way, from your exploratory phase through your networking and recruiting and interview prep, and really can act as a sounding board to make sure that you have someone in your corner to really bounce ideas off of and think things through once you have offers coming in. Additionally, recruiting prep, the best way to do that is really by speaking with our mentors to work through mock interviews, work through the technical questions, the qualitative questions, work on your story. And on our website, on the Learning tab, we have phenomenal learning resources for you to use. These resources were curated by us, the industry professionals who are now conducting the interviews. So when it comes to qualitative questions and quantitative questions, we know how many interview guides there are out there and how many questions exist. So what our goal is to really limit the scope to what is absolutely necessary, because we know how valuable your time is as a student in school. And last but not least, networking. Networking is crucial for landing that first job and is also incredibly important you'll find out as you work throughout your career. So Pro Forma Futures is a great start for a student or otherwise who's really looking to expand their network and really get from point A to point B. So with that, I'll kick it over to Connor to walk through the finance industry overall and do a deep dive into investment banking.
All right. So on this slide, we've got kind of a breakdown of what the finance industry is comprised of. So predominantly for most folks recruiting out of undergrad, investment banking is going to be where you're looking. And at the highest level, investment banking is acting as a middleman, facilitating capital transactions between buyers and sellers or creditors and debtors. Asset management, any kind of management of other people's money, whether that's wealth management, hedge funds, private credit, private equity, etc. Equity research is conducting research on publicly traded equities that are distributed to clients of the investment bank you work at. So equity research is typically an arm within an investment bank. You are looking at public stocks, providing quarterly reports and any meaningful updates on them and sharing them with hedge funds, private equity firms, and anyone else who is a client of an investment bank. And then corporate finance. This is working at any kind of traditional company you might think of. So take Coca-Cola, for example, and handling all the finance in the background. So if Coca-Cola needs to raise debt, if Coca-Cola needs to acquire a business, deal with any internal financial restructuring or finance-related operations within a business, that's what corporate finance is. You also have risk management and commercial banking. These are less common, less traditional career paths, certainly for coming out of undergrad. So we're not going to focus on those within this presentation. And we also don't have any mentors who specialize in this area. So the four primary areas: banking, asset management, equity research, and corporate finance. If you're interested in any of those, you've come to the right place. Next slide, please. Okay, so high-level overview. This slide basically tries to break down these four finance segments by compensation, work-life balance, and type of work. I won't go into too much detail here. You can also do additional research on your own if you want to find out more, or of course, just talk with a Pro Forma Futures mentor. But banking has the highest overall compensation. The first year compensation shown here is what you would expect to be making in your first year out of undergrad in banking, and that's the same for all of these. These numbers are a little stale, so the first year compensation could be even higher these days. So for banking, worst work-life balance, kind of the widest diversity of work and the highest compensation. You also have the most optionality career-wise if you start off in banking. Asset management, out the gate, work-life balance is a little bit better, but correspondingly compensation is slightly lower. You will learn largely the same skill set you get in banking, but it will not be as comprehensive. So 2 years out the gate of banking, you've really got kind of the most comprehensive financial analyst toolkit. If you start off in asset management, you may get 80 to 90% of that, but just by virtue of the fact that you're not working as much in asset management out the gate, if over a 2-year period, your learning is slightly less than what your peers would get in banking, just because they're getting in so many more reps in the same concentrated period of time. Equity research, the work is a lot more thought-provoking out the gate than what you might do in banking. Banking, there is a lot of grunt work involved, so not everything you're doing is super exciting or thought-provoking. Equity research, you're constantly being challenged to think about the business you're looking at. The downside is the skill set is not as broadly sought after, not as broadly applicable to all roles. However, similar to if you were to start off in consulting, you do develop more of a judgment muscle in your brain versus what you would see in banking. There can be very intense banking-like hours in equity research, though they happen sporadically, as opposed to banking where it's a high frequency of late nights, kind of year-round. Compensation is competitive, but again, not quite what you would get in banking. And then corporate finance, probably the most similar overall skill set to what you would see in banking. However, the hours are significantly better. So your work-life balance is much better in corporate, but correspondingly, compensation is lower. Next slide, please. All right, so overview of banking. So within an investment bank, there are coverage groups, there are product groups, there are a lot of different breakdowns. We'll talk more about that in a bit, but at the highest level, when most people think of banking, they think of M&A advisory, deal work. So that's buying and selling a business. Company A wants to sell a business, they contract an investment bank to help facilitate a sale of that business. You go out and find a universe of potential buyers and show them what the business is, generate interest, and then try and get people to pay as much as possible for the bank. Conversely, you could also have folks that want to acquire a specific type of business, and you can contract an investment bank to help you find that specific business. So kind of the inverse of the first process. We don't need to dig into all of these. The big ticket items are also equity capital markets. Just think IPOs. If a company wants to go public, they go through an investment bank to do that. The ECM group will help facilitate the IPO of a business. Debt capital markets. If you want to raise debt, specifically public debt, you go to DCM. If you want to raise private credit, that's leverage finance. That's, if you look at the M&A advisory group, that's a subsidiary of that. Not a subsidiary, but more adjacent to that. The process for raising private credit is very similar to the process for acquiring or selling a business. Restructuring, think bankrupt companies, they need to go through Chapter 11 bankruptcy. You'd hire a bank to facilitate that. Sponsors group is dealing specifically with private equity firms. The other segments you can read about here or do your own research. Next slide, please. Okay. So banking deep dive. Like I mentioned earlier, there are product and coverage groups, and everyone throws these terms around. I remember when I was first breaking into banking, I never knew what they meant and was too scared to ask. So what is a product group? A product group is you facilitate a specific investment banking product. You are a technical specialist, meaning you are an expert in that product. So what is that product? That is M&A advisory, that is LevFin, debt raising, or ECM, equity capital markets, restructuring. These are all technically specific products that you will service across any industry. So you might do a healthcare M&A deal. If you're in the M&A group, you might do an industrials M&A deal, a tech M&A deal, et cetera. You're only doing, insert product group M&A across all industries, or you're only doing LevFin across a wide variety of industries. Coverage is the inverse of that. Coverage is you are an industry specialist, product generalist. So I was in industrials when I was at Jefferies. I exclusively focused on industrials businesses, but I worked on all manner of products. I did M&A deals, restructuring. I looked at an ECM deal, and I did credit raising. So coverage, you are the industry expert, but you get experience across a wide variety of products. If you are thinking about making the decision between product and coverage, maybe to build a long-term career in banking or get into private equity, the short answer is it's not going to make too big of a difference whether you're in a product or coverage group. Of course, if you're interested in one specific coverage group or a specific type of product, then you should pursue that. But if your longer term objective is to break into private equity, you will always have a shot at getting into private equity, whether you were in LevFin, whether you were in M&A, whether you were industrials or healthcare, et cetera. So here, up to the right on this page, you've got an overview of the banks people will typically recruit for coming out of undergrad. This is just a small overview of the universe. There are, of course, far more than what we show here. And down the line opportunities. I mentioned this earlier, but if you start off in banking, you have a very broad set of potential career paths you could take, just because the skill set you learn in investment banking is so valuable across kind of any business role you can imagine, that if people see you've done banking, they know you're a hardworking, capable, and technically proficient candidate, and will always be happy to take an interview with you. So just a couple ones, you can go build a career in banking, lateral over to private equity, which is very common, private credit, same deal. Go to a hedge fund, go to buy-side equity research. You could go to pretty much any corporate type of role you could imagine. It's a highly sought-after skill set. So all that is to say, if you are not certain what you want to do with the rest of your life, banking is a safe place to start, because once you've done that, you could pretty much go in any direction you want to. Next slide, please. Okay, timeline. So this timeline is even more expedited than when we wrote it. The key takeaway you need to know here is that recruiting for banking roles takes place very quickly once you get into undergrad. So your freshman year of college, what you want to be doing is starting to network, starting to prepare, study your technicals, and get ready for interviews because they come up quickly. The other critical things you can be doing your freshman year, prioritize getting a very high GPA, particularly if you come from a non-core school. A lot of people want these jobs. They're very competitive. And one of the ways you can stand out is to have a stratospheric GPA. We're talking 3.7, 3.8, 3.9, 4.0. As high as you can get it there. If you can front load easier classes, this isn't what your professors will say, but if you can push off classes you know that are going to be hard until like your second semester sophomore year or your junior year, do it. It's critically important that you maintain a high GPA. Also, if you can join any clubs or do extracurriculars where there are leadership opportunities available, absolutely pursue that. Recruiting starts to take place as early as your first semester sophomore year, second semester sophomore year. What you're going to be doing there is reaching out and chatting with lots of banks, getting involved in interview processes, submitting your resume, and starting to do interviews. So there's a very good possibility these days that you will have interviewed and received an offer for an investment bank more than a year in advance of when your junior summer internship takes place. Fast forward to junior summer, that's when you actually do your internship. It is 10 weeks where you have a chance to prove yourself and get a return offer. I would argue these are your most important 10 weeks all of college. You should be myopically focused on doing a good job at the internship and securing that full-time offer during your 10 weeks there. Don't prioritize hanging out with friends or doing extracurriculars when you're in this internship. You should be solely focused on crushing the internship and making sure you land that return offer. And then come your senior year, once you have done that, you get to relax, enjoy your senior year. You can study the GMAT, start prepping for private equity interviews, which take place sometimes before you even start your full-time role. But it's an opportunity to kind of do what you will with your last year now that you've spent 3 years grinding and making sure you get this offer. Next slide.
All right. So thanks, Connor. So I'll run through these fairly quickly. A lot of these we already touched upon. This is really just a recap, but really how PFF is here to help you and support you through your recruitment journey. Learn what's available to you. Speak with our PFF mentors if you're a freshman, sophomore, junior. If you're just really looking to understand the industry and what roles are available to you. Connor touched upon a lot of them. If you're looking to really learn more about each and every one of them, go to the PFF website, speak with our mentors, and do your own research as well. Like Connor mentioned, the earlier you start, the better. We know how time consuming it is to be a student, focus on your grades, but even if you could start chipping away 15 minutes to 30 minutes a day, starting to network and really nail down those technical and qualitative questions, the better off you'll be. Nailing your story, point 3 here, know why you're doing it. It's critically important to have your story nailed down. And unfortunately, it can't really just be that you're someone who likes to be in a fast-paced environment or my mom was an investment banker. It really needs to be personal to you. And the goal is to really leave the other person at the other end of the table, really remembering your story and really believing it and believing that you would be a good worker on the desk. Prepare for your interviews we discussed. Networking is critically important, not just to land your first job, but throughout your career. And like Connor mentioned, keep your grades up, get involved on campus, whether it's through a fraternity, sorority, business fraternity, student-run investment club, whatever it may be. It's always important to have extracurriculars on your resume so it stands out. And this last point here, to the extent possible, try and take an intro to accounting course. It's one thing to memorize answers from these technical interview guides. It's another to have a really good understanding of these concepts. And it goes without saying that you'll need to know these concepts once you hit the desk. So understanding the basic accounting fundamentals that you see in the interview guides, knowing the 3 financial statements, how they all relate, line items from each will really go a long way in your understanding. How we help, take a look at our website, go to the learning tab to learn more about the industry. And we also have great recruiting guides on the website as well. And here's a list of some other websites that we recommend you look through once you master all the material on our website. If this is for you, start now. The sooner the better. Start reaching out, network with people from your university, with, of course, with people from Forma Futures. And, we kind of bashed on it earlier, but there's nothing wrong with cold outreach by email or LinkedIn direct messaging. Alumni tend to have a soft spot. So it really is important to cast a wide net and really make sure you're starting early and setting yourself up for success. Know why you're doing it. Your story is critically important. Take a look at our website and see some sample stories you can hear about why we went into the industry and really the stories that we told that really helped impress and get us the job that we were really seeking. Interview prep, critically important. Take a look at our website. Can't stress it enough that these are the materials that you need to know. It's not hundreds of questions. It's a few dozen questions that will really set you up for success. And once you have these nailed down, feel free to look at the other guides available online, but this really is the best place to start. And we also have great resources in terms of networking best practices, resume templates, and other really helpful materials to kind of get you situated for your recruitment process. Networking, critically important, touched upon this already, but we encourage you to start networking as early as freshman year. We even have conversations with high school students, which is just so impressive to speak with them and that they're so aware that they need to start as early as possible. So the sooner you start, the better. Take to LinkedIn, of course, use Forma Futures. And, if you're in the area in New York City or other relevant cities for finance and recruiting, feel free to grab coffee and meet up with folks because that definitely makes a more meaningful connection. More recently, at Forma Futures, we launched a Discord channel. Not everyone has the time to hop on the phone and have a thoughtful conversation multiple times a week. And if you're one of those people, take to our Discord channel, write your questions that you have in the channel, and you will receive a response from a PFF mentor. If it's something recruiting specific or investment banking specific, best practices for even resume templates or a silly question like how soon after I interview should I send a thank you email, feel free to ask away and then you will be responded to. Follow us on LinkedIn. We have a LinkedIn page where we post job opportunities. We give exciting updates about what's going on with our organization and other training opportunities. And of course, follow us on YouTube for more information to set you up for success in recruitment. And we alluded to this earlier, but if you're interested in becoming a PFF campus ambassador, if you like what we're doing over here at Forma Futures and would like to add something meaningful to your resume from a leadership perspective, feel free to reach out to proformafutures@gmail.com. And should have mentioned this earlier, but in terms of reaching out to mentors on our website, you can either reach out directly through the personal emails that we have on our profiles. But if you're not comfortable doing that, feel free to also reach out to proformafutures@gmail.com and we will connect you with the mentor. And you could also reach out to the Contact Us tab on our website as well. Thanks again for your time. Hope you learned something and hope you make use of our resource. This is just a recap. It's completely free, nonprofit. We're really a group of individuals who are really just looking to pay it forward. We know how difficult it is to break into the industry. So really hope you make use of our platform and have meaningful conversations with our mentors.
Thanks very much.